Jake Torres wiped the grease from his hands and looked around his small repair bay. The metal walls were covered with rust and half his tools were broken. He had exactly 47 credits left in his account. It was not enough. The station master wanted 300 credits by tomorrow, or Jake would lose everything. He stepped out onto the main corridor of Kilo's 9 trading station. Aliens of every shape and size walked past him. Some had 4 arms, others had scales or fur. A few floated in containment fields. Jake was used to it now. He had been living here for 3 years, fixing ships for anyone who would pay. Today was different though. The entire station was buzzing with excitement. Prince Vex Thor of the Krillian Empire had arrived. Jake could see the crowd gathering near the main docking bay. He walked closer, curious despite himself. The prince was tall and covered in blue crystalline skin that sparkled under the lights. His entourage of guards stood behind him, their weapons gleaming. In front of the prince were dozens of spacecraft of various sizes. Most looked old and damaged. "Worthless garbage," the prince announced loudly. His voice echoed through the station. "I am selling these pathetic vessels. They take up space in my royal collection. Who wants to buy cheap junk?" Other aliens laughed and pointed at the ships. Jake moved through the crowd, his mechanic's eye scanning each vessel. Most were beyond repair. Then he saw it. At the far end of the line was a ship unlike anything he had ever seen. It was medium-sized, maybe 40 meters long. The hull was covered in strange brown and green corrosion. Pieces of metal hung loose from its frame. No markings were visible under all the dirt and damage. But something about it called to Jake. The shape was odd. The angles were wrong compared to modern ships. "What about that one?" Jake pointed at the corroded vessel. The crowd went silent. Then they started laughing. An insect-like alien clicked its mandibles in amusement. "That death trap? It has been in the prince's collection for 200 years. No one knows what species built it." Prince Vexthor walked over to Jake. He looked down at the human with obvious disgust. "Ah, a human? Of course you would want garbage. Your species only reached the stars 300 years ago. You know nothing of quality." Jake felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "How much? For you?" 2,000 credits. The prince smiled cruelly. "Plus whatever tools you have. I hear human tools are amusing." 2,000 credits. That was everything Jake had saved. Everything. His entire tool collection represented 3 years of work. But something deep inside told him this ship was special. Maybe he was crazy. Probably he was crazy. "Deal?" Jake said. The crowd gasped. Several aliens made sounds that their translators interpreted as laughter and disbelief. The prince looked surprised for a moment, then grinned widely. "Excellent. A fool and his credits are easily parted. Guards, process the transaction." 20 minutes later, Jake stood alone in front of his new ship. His credit account showed 0. His tool belt was gone. He had a signed document proving he owned this wreck. Other mechanics walked by and shook their heads. One whispered to another, "Stupid human. That thing will never fly." Jake climbed through a hole in the hull and entered the ship. Inside was dark and smelled of old metal. Dust floated in the air. He moved carefully through the corridor, his footsteps echoing. Everything was dead. No lights, no power, no life support. Then his hand brushed against a panel on the wall. For just a second, it flickered with a faint blue light. Words appeared in a language he did not recognize. Then they faded away. Jake smiled in the darkness. "Okay, old girl," he whispered. "Let's see what you really are." For 3 weeks, Jake lived inside the ship. He had no money for food, so he ate ration bars that other mechanics threw away. He had no tools, so he borrowed and stole what he needed. Every day, aliens would walk past his ship and laugh. Some took pictures. One alien even tried to buy it from him for 50 credits. Jake said no. He worked 18 hours every day. The ship was like a giant puzzle with pieces scattered everywhere. Power conduits were melted. Life support systems were frozen solid. The engine core looked like someone had shot it with a plasma cannon. But Jake kept working. He noticed strange things. The metal was harder than anything he knew. When he tried to cut it, his tools broke. The wiring inside was not wiring at all. It looked like crystal threads that glowed faintly when he touched them. And the symbols on the walls were not from any known alien language. "What are you?" Jake asked the silent ship every night. On day 23, Jake ran out of proper repair materials. He started using whatever he could find. He patched holes with scrap metal and sealed them with industrial adhesive. He connected power cells with old cables wrapped in electrical tape. Other mechanics saw this and shook their heads. This was not how you fixed a ship. This was how humans did things when they had no other choice. Jake was working on the main core when his hand slipped. A sharp piece of crystal cut deep into his palm. Blood dripped down onto a large panel below. The blood was bright red against the dull gray surface. Everything changed in 1 second. The panel absorbed his blood like a sponge drinking water. Then it started glowing. Blue light spread from the panel across the entire floor. The walls began to hum. All around him, systems that had been dead for thousands of years suddenly came alive. Jake fell backward in shock. Holographic displays appeared in the air. They showed numbers and symbols spinning rapidly. A deep vibration went through the ship. Outside, other people on the station stopped and stared. The old junk ship was glowing like a star. Then a voice spoke. It was mechanical but somehow warm. It spoke in a language Jake did not understand. Words flowed through the air like music. Then the ship's systems made a clicking sound and the voice changed. Genetic signature confirmed, the voice said in perfect English. Human DNA detected. This is impossible. All humans are extinct. Jake's mouth hung open. What did you say? Running analysis. You are human. But humans disappeared 10,000 years ago. Explain this. 10,000 years? Jake stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. No. Humans only went to space 300 years ago. We are new to the galaxy. Negative. The holographic displays changed. They showed star maps Jake had never seen before. Hundreds of planets were marked with a symbol that looked almost like Earth's old flag. This vessel is Prometheus-class Dreadnought, serial number 773. Built by the Terran Deep Space Fleet in year 8247 of the first human expansion. I am the ship's artificial intelligence core. Jake felt like the floor was spinning. That is not possible. There was no first human expansion. Historical records indicate otherwise. Humanity once controlled 47 star systems. We fought wars. We built great cities among the stars. Then came the collapse. All records end suddenly. No explanation found in my database. The AI paused. You truly do not know? Before Jake could answer, alarms started blaring outside. Through the ship's walls he could hear shouting. Heavy footsteps ran toward his docking bay. The station's sensors must have detected the massive power signature. The ship's AI spoke again, and this time there was urgency in its voice. Warning. Multiple hostile signatures approaching. They know what you have found. They will take me away from you. The docking bay doors burst open. Prince Vexthor stood there with 20 armed guards. His crystalline face was twisted with rage. That ship belongs to me, the prince screamed. The Galactic Commerce Court was held in the largest hall on Kilos 9. Representatives from 12 different empires sat in floating chairs that circled the room. Jake stood in the center with his hands behind his back. He wore his only clean shirt. It still had grease stains on the sleeves. Prince Vexthor stood across from him wearing golden robes. 3 lawyers in expensive suits surrounded the prince. They carried data pads that glowed with legal documents. The judge was a massive creature that looked like a floating brain in a glass tank. Its voice came through speakers. Prince Vexthor claims the human Jake Torres acquired property through deception. Prince, present your evidence. One of the lawyers stepped forward. Your Honor, this human purchased what he thought was a worthless ship. But he actually bought an ancient warship with technology beyond our current understanding. He used his primitive human tricks to hide the ship's true value. The contract is void. Jake wanted to shout, but his own lawyer, a kind old alien named Mira, touched his arm. Wait, she whispered. Another lawyer spoke. Furthermore, humans are a new species. They only achieved space travel 300 years ago. They have no historical claim to ancient technology. This ship clearly belongs to a civilization that existed before humans learned to make fire. Murmurs went through the court. Many representatives nodded in agreement. Jake felt his heart sink. They were going to take his ship. Then Mira stood up. Your Honor, I call a witness. The ship itself. The room went silent. The judge's tank bubbled. You want the ship to testify? The ship has an artificial intelligence. It was present during the sale. It can verify the truth. 5 minutes later, a holographic projection of the ship's AI appeared in the center of the court. It looked like a spinning ball of blue light. When it spoke, every translator in the room worked overtime. I am Prometheus 773 Terran Deep Space Fleet. I was built by humans 10,347 years ago. The entire court erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. The prince's face turned dark purple with rage. The AI continued speaking over the noise. I have scanned Jake Torres. His DNA matches the genetic profiles of my original crew. Modern humans are descendants of the Terran Empire. The Empire collapsed. Humanity regressed to a primitive state. They forgot their history. But they are still human. Still my makers. Lies. Prince Vexthor screamed. This machine is broken. Everyone knows humans are primitives. The judge raised one tentacle for silence. The sale was legal. The prince never investigated what he was selling. The ship chooses its human owner. Case dismissed. But before anyone could move, a Krillian military commander stood up. This human cannot be allowed to keep a dreadnought. It is a weapon of mass destruction. We demand the Galactic Council seize it immediately. Other representatives agreed loudly. The judge looked uncomfortable. Perhaps a temporary seizure while we investigate further. Jake's communicator buzzed. It was the ship's AI speaking directly to him. Jake, they will imprison you and take me apart to study. We have 30 seconds before they lock down the docking bay. Trust me? Jake looked at Mira. She nodded once. Then he ran. Alarms blared as Jake sprinted through the corridors. Behind him, guards shouted and fired warning shots. He reached his ship and jumped through the airlock. The engines were already warming up. Seal the door. Jake yelled. The ship lifted off without permission. Station defense cannons opened fire. The ship's shields barely held. Jake gripped the pilot controls as they blasted through the docking bay doors, leaving a hole in the station wall. 6 warships appeared from nowhere, surrounding them. Missiles locked on. The lead ship broadcast a message. Surrender or be destroyed. Jake looked at the navigation screen. There was an asteroid field ahead. No one flew through asteroid fields. It was suicide. The gaps between rocks were too small. The movement too unpredictable. Hold on, Jake said and pushed the throttle forward. The ship shook violently as they flew through the purple nebula. The hull groaned and sparked. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Jake held onto his seat while the AI navigated through the poisonous clouds. Behind them, the warships stopped at the nebula's edge. They would not follow. No one was that crazy. We are clear, the AI said. But I have bad news. My hull is damaged again. Power reserves at 15%. We need repairs immediately. Jake looked at the star map. They were in empty space. No stations. No planets. Just darkness. Then he saw it. A cluster of stars marked in red on the ancient map. Words appeared below them in old human language. The translator worked slowly. The dead sector, Jake read aloud. What does that mean? This was the core of human territory 10,000 years ago. 15 planets. Hundreds of space stations. 50 billion people lived here. The AI's voice became quiet. Now there is nothing. This sector has been forbidden for thousands of years. No one knows why. Jake set course for the nearest planet. It took 6 hours to get there. When they arrived, Jake stared out the window in disbelief. The planet was covered in cities. Massive towers reached into the sky. Roads connected buildings in perfect geometric patterns. But everything was silent. Dead. Not a single light shone in any window. They landed near the largest tower. Jake put on an environment suit and walked outside. The air was thin but breathable. He walked through empty streets. Vehicles sat abandoned where their drivers had left them. In one building he found dinner plates still on a table. The food had turned to dust centuries ago. What happened here? Jake whispered. He found a data vault in the central tower. It took the ship's AI 3 hours to crack the ancient security. Finally, a holographic recording appeared. A woman in a military uniform stood in a command center. She looked terrified. This is Admiral Chen, final message, the woman said. Her voice shook. The Devourers have broken through in 12 sectors. We cannot stop them. They consume everything. Matter. Energy. Even space itself bends around them. We are activating the barrier protocol. It will trap them, but it will also trap us. Humanity will be cut off from this sector forever. To whoever finds this message, do not break the barrier. Do not let them through. They will destroy everything. The recording ended. Jake felt cold despite his suit's heating system. The barrier is still active, the AI said. It surrounds the entire dead sector. We are inside it now. Before Jake could respond, his sensors detected ships. Many ships. The hunting fleet had found him. They were entering the sector through the same path he had used. There is a repair facility on the third moon, the AI said. If we can reach it, I can restore my full systems. They flew to the moon as fast as the damaged engines would allow. Behind them, the fleet spread out in attack formation. Prince Vexthor's voice came over all frequencies. "Surrender the ship, human, or we will destroy you." Jake reached the ancient facility and landed inside. The building systems recognized the ship and started automatic repairs. Robotic arms moved along the hull, replacing damaged sections. The ship's true form began to emerge from under all the corrosion. It was beautiful. Outside, the fleet surrounded the moon. A Krillian cruiser fired its main cannon at the facility's shields. The blast was absorbed, but the energy had to go somewhere. It reflected back out into space and hit something invisible. Reality cracked like glass. A hole opened in empty space. It was darker than black, wrong in ways that hurt to look at. Something moved inside that darkness. Something huge. Something that should not exist in their universe. The nearest warship simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing. Not even debris. The Devourers had awakened. 2 more ships vanished as the darkness spread. Screams filled all communication channels. The alien fleet began to retreat in panic, but the hole was growing larger. Things with too many angles crawled out of the void. They did not move like normal creatures. They twisted space around them. Jake activated his broadcast to all ships. "Listen to me. Those are the Devourers. They destroyed humanity 10,000 years ago. If that barrier breaks completely, they will consume the entire galaxy." "Why should we trust you?" someone shouted back. "Because I can stop them," Jake said. "But I need your help." Prince Vexthor's face appeared on screen. For the first time he looked afraid. "What do you want, human?" "My ship is almost fully repaired. I found records of the old human weapon, but if we use it, we all die. There is another way. We can strengthen the barrier instead of attacking them directly. But it requires all our ships to work together in perfect coordination." A Krillian admiral responded. "Impossible. We are under attack. Our formation will break. The timing must be exact or it fails." Jake smiled despite the situation. "That is where you are wrong. You think like military commanders. You want perfect formations and exact timing. But I am human. We do not do perfect. We do improvisation." The ship's AI spoke over the broadcast. "The repair facility can generate massive power. If all ships connect their energy cores in sequence, we can channel it through the barrier network and seal the breach. But someone must coordinate 27 different ship types with different systems while being attacked." "I can do it," Jake said. "Trust me." The admiral hesitated. Then another ship vanished into the darkness. "We have no choice. All ships, follow the humans' orders." Jake's hands moved across the controls. His ship was now fully restored and gleaming. The repair facility had revealed its true form. It was a warship more advanced than anything the current galaxy possessed. He launched into space. "All ships, link your power cores to my system. Do not worry about being neat. Just connect however you can." The aliens tried to coordinate, but the Devourers kept attacking. Ships broke formation. Communication became chaos. Energy links failed and had to be reconnected differently. It was messy and wrong by every military standard. But Jake saw the pattern. He had spent years fixing broken ships with whatever materials he had. This was the same thing but larger. When a Krillian ship could not connect properly, he told them to reroute through a merchant vessel. When power flow was uneven, he told ships to adjust individually rather than together. "Stop thinking like a fleet," Jake shouted. "Think like individual ships working toward one goal. Adapt. Improvise." The Devourers launched a massive attack. Their darkness reached for the ships. Jake fired his weapons not at the creatures but at asteroids, creating debris fields that confused their movement patterns. Other ships saw this and copied him. Unpredictable. Random. Human. "Now!" Jake screamed. "Channel all power through my ship." Energy from 27 ships flowed through his vessel into the repair facility. The facility transformed the raw power into a wave of light that struck the barrier. The crack in space began to close. The Devourers shrieked in a sound that existed outside normal hearing. They pulled back toward the void. Jake's ship started to melt from the energy overload. Alarms screamed warnings. But he held the connection for 5 more seconds. The barrier sealed with a flash that lit up the entire sector. The Devourers were gone. Trapped again. The darkness faded. Jake's ship tumbled through space, systems failing. But he was alive. They were all alive. 3 weeks later, Jake landed back at Kilos 9. His ship was damaged again but still flying. The station master ran up to him with tears in his eyes. "You saved us all. The council offers you anything you want. Money. Lad. A noble title. Jake shook his head. I just want my repair bay back. His old space was waiting for him. But now other aliens came with respect, asking him to fix their impossible problems. Jake smiled and picked up his tools. Let me show you the human way, he said.